Hey, what's up everybody? Hope you're having a great day. My name is Jay, and of course you are watching Clouded Reactions. I just saw you like minutes ago. Of course, video-wise, I don't know if I'm going to release it another day after, or maybe later on during the day that I just released the Talvisota the lyric video. But I forgot to tell you why I had disappeared for a little bit. I actually ruined my last computer by spilling some drink on it. Now when I drink something, it definitely has a cap, and I keep it far away from my laptop. Even the Sabaton channels, like I had to take off the notification things because I would see them pop up and it'll like make me more depressed. Like, ah, dang, I stopped doing it. You know, I stopped recording. Computers, like recently I bought another computer, and it wasn't even that expensive, and it works just as good as the last one. So not only that, the recording thing, my recording app that I used before, it's this one I installed right now is way more better, way more easier. It's like I'm cutting like all my work almost in half, so it's making me real confident again to make videos again. But anyways, we're gonna jump into the Talvisota history video, and this is actually a really short video. It's only like 13 minutes and 45 seconds long. It's probably one of the shortest history videos I can recall that Sabaton History Channel has ever done. So we're gonna go ahead and hop right on into this one, and let's see what the Sabaton history. It's called the Winter War. Still doesn't narrow it down for me that much. Usually the title kind of allows me to like, get a little bit of context clues. This one's still kind of vague for my taste. But yeah, let's just hop right on in.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joakim from Sabaton. And this is Sabaton History.
Good old Indy.
The Soviet Red Army invaded Finland in late 1939, and the Winter War had begun.
Oh, invaded Finland?
Wrong, as the Finnish Red Army invaded Finland in late 1939, and the Winter War had begun. The Soviets thought the war would be over in a matter of weeks.
Okay, so they weren't attacking Hitler in this one. Not yet, at least. This is at the beginning of the war, right? 1939. Sorry, I'm just really thirsty. Okay, well, I already know the comments in the other video, in my past video. I'm gonna have to pin it to the top comment. Well, either way, I'm gonna sound like an idiot for sure in the last video.
Weeks, if not days, but they were wrong. The Soviets thought the war would be over in a matter of weeks, if not days, but they were wrong, as the Finnish defenders surprised the world with their tenacity.
And our song Talvisota is a tribute to Finnish Sisu.
International observers had...
I mean, I don't want to critique, but there's been definitely some songs that they've done before where they kind of establish who versus who. I mean, unless you knew the Winter War and who was like, obviously I don't know what the Winter War was about. So unless you didn't know the title of the war and you knew who was in it, someone could at least said like something like Finnish pride or like Finland nation. Like, they kept it real vague. They said Russian a couple times, but like I said, well, I'm just trying to defend my own stupidity. I also didn't know about it, so I'm just thinking about the comments in Talvisota. I already know. I can already hear the keyboards typing.
International observers had a hard time finding a war that seemed more one-sided. The military might of the Soviet Union versus little Finland with a population of some 3.65 million. Without modern equipment, without tanks or even allies, the Finnish seemed doomed from the start as Soviet troops crossed the border November 30th, 1939, starting what the Finns called Talvisota, Winter War. Finland had a troubled history with Russia. Its declaration...
So a very small population in Finland versus this great mighty Russian army. It's 40-1 all over again. Oh man, I can't believe... See, this kind of makes me wish I would read the history before I do the videos. But it's really fun trying to guess what's happening in the song without knowing what's going on. Makes me look like an idiot, but you know what? At least I'm upfront about it.
Finland had a troubled history with Russia. Its declaration of independence from the Russian Empire in December 1917 led to a brutal civil war between the right-wing whites and Bolshevik Reds. This was also a cultural war in which the Finnish nationalistic elements fought against the supporters of Russian influence. This resentment lingered in the Finnish conscience well into the late 1930s when war again loomed across the European continent. there were plenty of people who believed that the antagonistic ideologies of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union would eventually lead to war between the two, and that Finland may play a role in that future war. In the event of such a war, Joseph Stalin was concerned since the Finnish border was not even 30 kilometers away from Leningrad, and the Finnish batteries in the Gulf of Finland could threaten Soviet shipping in the Baltic Sea. Now, during the Great War, some Finns had quite close contact with the Germans, and there was even a Finnish Jaeger battalion that saw action with the German army. Stalin saw this possible connection as a real threat, even as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact went into effect in the wake of German and Soviet invasions of Poland. The Ribbentrop Pact went into effect connection as a real threat, even as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact went into effect in the wake of German and Soviet invasions of Poland.
Okay, because when they said Molotov in hand, tanks were coming, no fear, something like that. I thought they meant literally Molotovs in hand, like people like just hawking Molotov cocktails. No, they said Molotov cocktails in the song, so I think they're really actually chucking Molotov cocktails against actual tanks. But he just called it a Molotov pack. So I wonder if that's just a play on words, or if they actually use Molotov cocktails. They probably were using them. Like they said, the Finnish army at that time was not technologically advanced like everybody else was. So maybe they didn't have the equipment needed. So they were really just chucking bottles with rags in them. Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do, especially when war is at your doorstep and you're fighting a giant.
Ribbentrop Pact went into effect in the wake of German and Soviet invasions of Poland. They partitioned Poland, and no buffer state between the two powers any longer existed. So Stalin secured a military presence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania just in case. Finland, who declared itself neutral, was next. Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov presented demands to the Finns that included moving the border further away from Leningrad, which would also involve the Finns giving up their entire defensive line against the Soviets, and the Finns having to relocate up to 10% of their population, leasing the Soviets Hanko Peninsula to use as a military base, and giving them the Rybaki Peninsula, which Stalin wanted for the nickel mines up there. I talked about all of this week by week on my World War II channel, where you can get all of the details. But long story short, the Finns said, no way.
Subtle plug-in for a second channel.
Where you can get all of the details. But long story short, the Finns said, no way, and the Red Army invaded Finland at points along the entire border. Winter had already begun, and it would become one of the coldest in recorded history. Baron Field Marshal Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim came out of retirement to take overall command of the Finnish army and knew that the key to the defense of Finland was the Karelian Isthmus, the narrow strip of land between the Gulf of Finland and Lake Ladoga. Since 1932, they had prepared strong lines of defense there between the lakes and marshes, the defenses I mentioned earlier, which the Russian troops now had to attack head on. The boggy ground was no good for Soviet tanks and artillery to cross, and the areas they could cross had been extensively mined by the Finns. The Finnish army was small, yet was strongly motivated by patriotic fervor. They could mobilize maybe a little over 300,000 men, and were equipped with only outdated artillery and machine guns, with the exception of the Finnish-made Suomi submachine gun that was a serious weapon. The Russians, for their part, did not even bother to send their best troops, using just what was available in the Leningrad region.
Oh man, what an insult. Thinking that your enemy is so, thinking that your enemy probably wasn't even going to put up a fight because they're not even strong enough. They don't got the technology, they ain't got the numbers. What an insult, man. Well, they learned their lesson, didn't they?
Gun that was a serious weapon. The Russians, for their part, did not even bother to send their best troops, using just what was available in the Leningrad region. Even so, against such a small nation, Stalin wanted only a quick war and ordered General Kirill Meretskov, the commander of the Leningrad military district, to conquer Finland in a few weeks. Meretskov planned to do it by Stalin's birthday, December 21st, and yes, I'm aware that that date is slightly disputed.
His birthday is slightly disputed? Or just the date itself? And for what reason?
I'm aware that that date is slightly disputed.
See, I knew that line, push against the Russian rule. I knew that made me think maybe we're not talking about the Russians here. See, I catch on. I catch on a little bit of stuff. You know, I'm slow, but I'm not stupid, you know. I catch on, so I just wish they made it more, like I said, if you didn't know the title Winter War and knew who fought in the war, it would have helped a lot if they could if Sabaton just threw. I mean, dang, if it's all about Finland, they should have said Finnish troops, like Finnish morale, you know, something, you know, to relate the opposition of Russia, even without saying just the title Winter War, because, you know, like I said, not everybody knows about the Winter War, okay? Obviously.
Meretskov would make a two-pronged attack to break the Mannerheim defense line. One force heading straight over the Karelian Isthmus, and another force making a wide swing around Lake Ladoga to outflank the Finnish. In the far north, beyond Lake Ladoga, the Soviet forces marched into nightmarish conditions. They were neither equipped nor trained to fight in the Arctic climate. They were not even camouflaged for the snow, nor were their tanks. The terrain was some of the densest forests in the entire world, with snowdrifts between the trees deeper than a man standing. The area lacked adequate infrastructure, and the troops were confined to the roads, which they had to follow in long columns. They were perfect targets for Finnish ambushes. Small platoons of Finns on skis or snowshoes wearing...
There's actually kind of a twist, because usually, like I said in the last video, the Russians take advantage because they know about winter. They got coats and everything, uniforms that match the landscape. And in this case, the Russians did not hide themselves at all, whereas the Finnish had, you know, the white jackets. It's you know, that's kind of throwing me off a little bit too. Man, but that's good. That's cool because, you know, you gotta use what you can. Camouflage, winter, white uniforms, obviously. And they even got, what is this, a ski? I mean, I'm telling you, man. People got to learn, if you're going to fight in the winter, be prepared to fight in the winter. Like, we look at history, we should know this.
For Finnish ambushes. Small platoons of Finns on skis or snowshoes wearing winter camouflage constantly harassed the Soviet troops, raided their supply columns, and operated behind the lines. The Soviet command structure at this time had political commissars issuing orders, and not just military men, which made it very unwieldy, and the troops had been ordered not to withdraw no matter what. This led to the soldiers being isolated by the Finns into small pockets in a hostile territory.
Sounds like Hitler's rule, remember that? Don't surrender and don't retreat no matter what.
The soldiers being isolated by the Finns into small pockets in a hostile territory. The Finns called the pockets mohtis, the word for stacked firewood, like how the Soviet soldiers were huddled together in defensive positions in freezing temperatures with barely any food through the long nights of northern Finland. Mohti techniques were snipers and mortar teams harassing the trapped soldiers and depriving them of sleep, while stragglers, firewood gatherers, and supply columns were picked off one by one. Slowly but steadily, those mohtis shrunk as the Russian soldiers starved or froze to death until they were weak enough for assault companies to finish them off. This had the added bonus of preserving ammunition, salvaging the Russian weapons, and winning without costly direct engagement.
See, now the lyrics make more sense, and it has more of an impact. Nation's pride, stand your ground. Facing a freaking giant coming at you, you're facing a monster in the face, and you're just holding your own, not running away. Nation's pride, baby.
Direct engagement. The Finnish defenses of the Mannerheim line were strong, and that Together with the knowledge of the terrain and with having skilled NCOs trained in small group tactics, they could outmaneuver the Soviets, even heavily outnumbered. But they still lacked adequate weapons, especially weapons to deal with the Soviet tanks. One way was to sneak up to a tank and throw an explosive cocktail of gasoline, kerosene, and tar at it, hoping to ignite the machinery. They named it the Molotov cocktail after the Soviet foreign minister. He had said that,
oh, are they those that created the Molotov cocktail? Did that barely exist in 1939? I thought it existed before that. Oh, unless it was that certain, like that specific concoction of like, what did they say, gasoline and some other stuff. Interesting. If the Finnish are the ones that created that, that's pretty cool. That's a little nugget of information that's interesting to know about.
Named it the Molotov cocktail after the Soviet foreign minister. He had said that the Soviet bombers would only drop food supplies, not bombs. When bombs were, in fact, dropped, they were called Molotov bread baskets. Molotov cocktails had, in fact, been used earlier in the Spanish Civil War, but it was here they got their name. Finnish humor did indeed spoil Russian hopes for a quick victory. Soviet high command grew frustrated with the lack of progress, but this came to a large degree from insufficient skills in organization and coordination between the Russian forces. Even though they had a big advantage in armor, artillery, and aircraft, they could not combine arms efficiently. The more mobile Finns could thus react to each threat separately and concentrate their small forces on where the Soviets attacked next. Throughout December 1939, the Finns consistently and devastatingly defeated the Red Army. But in the long run, they could not hope to beat the entire USSR's military. Help from other nations was often promised but rarely delivered, though volunteers from all around the world arrived and in many cases fought. With Semyon Timoshenko and Georgy Zhukov now in charge as 1940 began, the Red Army underwent a period of retraining for winter war and using combined operations. By mid-February, the Mannerheim Line was broken, and in the early hours of March 13, 1940, Finland and the USSR signed the treaty that ended Talvisota.
Oh, so they couldn't even beat him. Wait, okay, so yeah, so they had to sign a treaty to start because they could not beat him. Interesting. Wonder what the treaty consisted of. Hopefully they talk about it right now. Though there's only like 4 minutes left, so hopefully they get into what it consisted of. Oh no. Looks like I'm running out of phone space. Gotta hurry up and do this.
Ended Talvisota. The Soviets gained all the concessions they had asked for and more, but at what cost? The Finns had lost some 25,000 killed and maybe another 50,000 wounded, over 2% of their population in just 105 days. But the Soviets had taken over 200,000 casualties according to their own estimate, but they may have had as many as 250,000 men killed, not even counting the wounded. The Winter War was a serious blow to Soviet pride, and the outside world now believed the USSR to be just a paper tiger. This would heavily influence Hitler's decision to soon wage war against the Soviets.
I was about to say that.
Also influence Finland's decision to fight on Germany's side in the continuation war. Britain and France had so cynically tried to prolong the Winter War for their own agenda, having an excuse to land troops in Norway to prevent iron supplies to Germany, and yet not providing real assistance at all, that Finland lost all trust in the Allies. They had truly fought, and for a time beat badly, one of the mightiest nations on earth, with an army that in many ways was just homemade.
Wow.
Now, you mentioned Sisu at the beginning.
Yes.
What is Sisu?
Well, I guess it's a mentality Finns have, resilience, hardiness, and it's quite impressive, actually.
Well, I mean, you cannot fault them for their bravery in the Winter War.
Absolutely
Nobody can do that. And that's interesting because Finland, their national character, I mean, everything's a generalization, but that Sisu mentality, and there's also the heavy metal thing too.
Yeah, actually, one of the few places in the world where heavy metal is not a small subgenre, you know?
It's not the extra thing that the
No,
weirdos
no, no.
listen
I
to.
mean, there are metal bands, Finnish metal bands, that will whip Madonna off the charts, you know, if they release an album.
That's pretty cool. So all you metal bands out there in the world, go to Finland.
Yeah, get your asses over there.
But you guys, how often do you guys play in Finland?
Not enough.
Yeah, but it's so close to Sweden.
Yeah, and it took us a while to get there as well. I mean, I think we'd been going on for like 8 or 9 years as a band before we actually made it to Finland.
Wow.
Which is kind of weird because we'd been, you know, all over Europe at that point. But
And
not to
the
Finland.
boat to Finland is so easy.
Yeah.
You know? Well, that's the first time that we really hung out after the planning session was on the
boat
to Finland.
Yes,
Yeah.
on the boat to Finland.
Like John F. Kennedy comes back, here's a gun, look, take it at you, take it at you, man.
On the boat to Finland, they serve a lot of cocktails.
Oh, yes, they do.
Now, you have a special cocktail.
Yes, a very, very special one. One served for Mr. Molotov, actually.
One of the actual original Molotov cocktails from the Winter War.
Yes.
That was not exploded or
It
something.
was made from these Jalovina bottles.
I think that's fantastic. Wow. With the whole
Yeah, we have a
blender.
lot of stuff like that in our rehearsal space. I guess we'll bring it for the show sometime, some stuff.
Talvisota, The Winter War, is on the album The Art of War.
And that's all for today, my friends.
But we will see you next time on Sabaton History.
Oh, dang.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. But right now, I want to ask you a few things, okay? Please subscribe to Sabaton History.
Unfortunately, I gotta keep the video short because I'm running out of space. And once I run out of space, the whole video, for some reason, gets, like, deleted. It looks like I got a little bit of things right, a lot of things wrong, especially like the versus who the song was really about. Really, it's about Finnish pride, Finnish strength, Finnish resilience against the Red Army, against the Russian army. That is really cool, man. That is really awesome. Man, I really, see, like I said, things like that, I wish I would know the history before going into a song. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should start doing that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Just to avoid looking like an idiot. But then again, you know, I don't think everybody's supposed to know every little thing about every little thing that happened in the world. It's just not going to happen. Even if you learn about it, maybe you just forget. Especially if someone like me. I don't have a whole lot of headspace, so. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. I certainly enjoyed the video. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. I don't know if it's going to be the next day after this or another week from now. I'm not going to be doing videos probably every day. Unless, you know, I don't know. Editing is a lot easier now, so. And recording is a lot easier. I just need to find a way to have more space on my phone. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the reaction like I said. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.